Welcome to Not So Silent, where we'll say what you can't. We think we're right, but I wouldn't bet on it. First off, let me just say thank you so much for all the listeners, all the feedback we've gotten. The show is blown up. It seems to be doubling or more every single episode that we put out. We love that. I totally appreciate all of you who are listening and sharing this on your socials. Please, please, please continue to do that. If you're on Apple Podcasts, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. Actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, do both. Subscribe to YouTube and Apple Podcast. Or if you're on Spotify, follow us and go to YouTube and subscribe. If you listen on Stitcher or all the other different ways you can stream this, subscribe and please share this on socials. We want to reach as big an audience as possible and get our word out. We totally appreciate all of your guys' help, love, support, and feedback, especially the good stuff, but we'll take the bad too. All right. So on today's show, we're discussing the school system we live in right now and the shock and awe that seems to be happening every single day with remote learning, but not how bad remote learning is, but what they're being taught. We will also be discussing some sports updates. We're going to have our serious or satire, and a little prognostication station. And then today we are going to do something a little controversial. We're going to do our top five, and we will do the top five races. So that'll be one not to miss. All right. So I am Taylor Duncan. I'm back in Chicago. I'm joined by Sean Phelps coming to us from Kansas City, and Chris Hertigan from St. Louis. Today's show is brought to you by Six Kids Construction. Six Kids Construction specializes in interior and exterior painting and remodeling. If you're thinking of selling your home, like I am, to move to a place where they actually think with their brains and get their kids in school, and you want to improve the curb appeal of your house, look up Six Kids Construction. That's the number 6, kidsconstruction.com. All right, so let's get started here. We got some topics to discuss. Last week, we talked all about remote learning and what a dumpster fire it was. And there was something good that came of remote learning, which is I got a glimpse into what my kids are learning and what they're being taught and the resources that they're being given in their schools. And I am shocked. I was pissed off. Sean, you started remote learning yesterday, right? Chris, you've been doing it actually longer than me. Have you been looking into what your kids are learning and being taught?
I have not, although I do have people overseeing it. I haven't heard anything bad, not nearly to the scope and scale of what you had. What about you, Sean?
Haven't looked. We just started yesterday. We had a half day. Today's the first full day.
So, and that's what, as I said last week, I think a lot of parents are busy. They're working and things like that. They're not able to see what's going on and so on. And I shared this with Sean. This is what I received. And I think it's important. Again, I know a lot of people listening don't have kids. So you might be sitting there like, well, who cares what they're teaching? And it's not that big of a deal and everything else. Well, and I certainly felt that way when I was younger or, in college and so on. Or if your kids are grown up, maybe you don't notice it and whatnot. So I started to do this. I did a little experiment with Sean here. I shared my screen and I had showed him what I was seeing just to see if maybe I was probably overthinking it a little bit. So here's how it all came about. My son was having trouble logging in on Zoom to one of his classes. So I went upstairs and I tried to help him. I couldn't find the Zoom link and everything else on their platform. But on their platform, there's a bunch of other things in the box on the left-hand side, different materials they can get to and so on. And I just started clicking around to see what was all this stuff. And one of which was a website for what they call your reading book of a day or book of the day or whatever. I forget exactly how it was titled. I clicked on it and it pulled up a picture of, it was about 8 or 9 covers of books that my kids are either supposed to read, can read. I don't know exactly how deep it goes, but again, it was one of the resources they could choose. And all the books really stood out to me. You could tell by the covers, they weren't your typical Berenstain Bears. You could see in the cover that they were trying to get something across to my kids. So I went to the lady's website that creates all of this stuff, and her website, in case anyone wants to see it, is heisreads.com. That's HEISE reads.com. It's not really easy to always to find, but I started clicking around what she recommends and her different books. And again, I'm not saying these are the books my kids have to read. I'm just looking at, this is the resource that my kid was given. And I started looking at some of the book covers, and I showed them to Sean. And I said, Sean, does anything stand out when you look at this? Or am I just being way too sensitive? And because Sean tends to be our moderate and everything else. And we started looking, and you could just start to see social justice screaming at you. So Sean, what was it when you saw it, when I showed you all these pictures, what stood out to you?
You could see, I mean, the big one that jumped off the page was the pride, because there's a giant rainbow on the cover of the book, and the book was called Pride. So it was like, oh, that's obviously a book about homosexuality. So that one stood out. Not that I cared, it just, that stood out amongst the other books. And then when you started looking at more of the titles, you see everything's about race, ethnicity, gender. Everything had something to do with that. The one that I didn't catch at first was the Prince in the Night. And that one stood out after a minute. And then, holy cow, the scariest one for the libertarian and me was the Big Red Umbrella. The least of the social justice issues on the page, but holy cow, the Big Red Umbrella. What does that sound like?
Yeah, right. Communism.
Yeah, they had like a yellow sickle on the freaking umbrella. The umbrella keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and welcoming more and more people in. And it'll take care of you. If there's rain, the umbrella will protect you. Just safely get under this big red umbrella and you'll all be safe. That one scared the crap out of me.
So which one really, really got me was, in Sean, as it played a funny joke on me, one of the books, the first book was called Not My Idea, and Sean looked up the title and somehow got a hold of it, and you can subscribe to get the PDF of the book. And so Sean luckily put my email address and not his own in there, which thank you for that, Sean. If you could sign me up for other wonderful things like Teen Vogue and the Biden campaign, that'd be great. I'll sign you up for the Trump campaign. You'll get a text a minute. So it was called Not My Idea. And I pulled up the book, and I'm going to actually do a screen share if you're looking at this on what do you call it, on YouTube, and you'll see the book in the PDF format, and I'll kind of quickly go through it for you guys so you can see this. So Not My Idea, it looks like this, and it basically goes through, scary things happen. Oh no, not again. What, mommy? What's not again? Oh, don't worry about it. Why are their hands up? Why is the policeman screaming at him? Bang, bang, bang. They want to bury the truth, right? And it goes on to show the parents making the kid feel good. And our family's kind. We don't see color, so on and so forth. And it kind of shows this, if you're white, the security guard doesn't care. If you're black, they do. Police are going after the black people, not you. By the way, if you live in a neighborhood with Christian values, that certainly means that you're probably a bad person, and they'll welcome you, but not black people. Grandpa, he's just mad that the protests are blocking the road, not about the African American who was killed. Racism is a white person's problem. You're all caught up in it. And the white people say the police officer is doing his job and I can't watch the news. And the worst part is when it starts to, again, show off the cross here. And it says things like, hey, your family might be part of the problem. You don't need to listen to them. And it goes on to say your family locks the doors. That's a bad thing. And racism's not your idea. You don't need to defend it, but you do. So let's move on and look at what else you can do about it. Racism's happening and it changes and keeps being the same. So what can you do about it? So the book kind of ends with this girl feeling sad about it, but then going and playing with, I know, here's the other one. Why didn't anyone teach me real history? And I know that what that police officer did was wrong. And then, so here, when you get to the end, you get to these activities. What can you do? And it tells white supremacy has been lying. And here's my favorite part is whiteness is a bad deal. And it's a contract over here that you sign with the devil that gets you stolen land, stolen riches, special favors, and the ability to mess endlessly with the lives of your friends, neighbors, loved ones, and all fellow humans of color if you sign it. But good news is you don't need to sign the contract of whiteness. So there's kind of the book I read that my kids have is being offered up as this like, hey, here's one of the books you can read. And I was shocked. I was completely blown away that is a recommended read from this website that is, not part of my school, but that my school is promoting. Not the Berenstein Bears, where they teach you to be nice to other kids on the playground, or not to steal, or not to be mean to your brother, or things like that. It's certainly not the 1980s where just say no, don't do drugs. No, instead it's don't sign the deal with the devil if you're white, and denounce your whiteness and you're okay. And by the way, mom and dad are part of the problem. And if you're following Christian values, that might be part of the problem too. I don't even know what to say when I saw that. It blew my mind that was a book. Now, not like some crazy fringe book. I'm sure there's some crazy fringe book that some guy in the KKK writes too for kids. And I would never want my kids to see that. But this is just the exact extreme opposite in the other direction. I don't know. What's the opposite of the letter K? Like this is like a, FFF or what? I don't know. This is like the exact opposite. I mean, Chris, what would you do if you saw this in your schools?
First, I'd be excited that they're acknowledging the devil exists, which means they must be assuming that God exists as well. So that's a step in the right direction spiritually, in my opinion. And if you didn't see the illustration, the politician behind the contract has like goat legs and hoofs. So they're kind of implying that, that's Satan. More and more I feel like the right is playing by the left's rules and the left is playing by no rules. So how do you beat them at their game if you're not willing to play their game with no rules? Because I want history to be taught. Like I want segregation to be taught. I want, Jim Crow to be taught. I want people to know what was bad about this country. But with this kind of a slant, it's so aggressive, it's gross. But this is what they're trying to do, is just gradually erode our morals and our values. And when you ask a leftist, so then where do you get your morals and values from? They have a hard time answering that. They don't answer to a higher calling or a higher power. It's just whatever they feel. And that's a really dangerous game to play. So the problem I have with it is I don't have time to fight this battle. I'm busy working 2 to 3 jobs to pay bills to keep my kids in these crappy schools. So the question is going like, how far does it have to go for me to really step up and do something about it? Taylor, I know you're deciding to move. And if Missouri went down this route, I think I'd have to consider moving too. Like, I don't think you can fight the system when so many teachers are so liberal and trying to cram this crap down people's throats.
Oh, better yet, actually, we did try to fight. So on top of that, in the district I live in, there's 3 high schools in the district. One of the high schools in the district posted a giant sign that's, it's the "In This House We Believe" signs. If you're unfamiliar, it's the black sign, and on it has Black Lives Matter, women's rights are human rights, no human is illegal, science is real, love is love, no matter your faith or ability, kindness is everything. And they posted that like a 12 by 12 foot sign. And my wife emailed the district superintendent and said, "Hey, that's a really political sign. I really don't appreciate that. I think we need to get this propaganda down." And the district superintendent sent a stock email that he had sent to other people. And we know that because some people posted it on some social media. And it basically said, "We're not trying to affirm, any political campaign. This is not connected with anything. We just wanted to we spoke to our students of color and we thought this was a nice way to welcome them back." And I thought that was hilarious how he said, "Welcome them back." I'm like, you're not even in school. I saw it on the way to the doctor. You're not welcoming anyone back with this. You are making a political statement. So my wife emailed him back and she, he mentioned George Floyd and things like that. And she emailed him back saying, there's a lot of facts about that case that, we got to dig into. And she was shocked when it happened and thought it was disgusting and needs the police officer likely should go away for life and all this kind of stuff. And he wrote back to her with two things that blew my mind. Number one, he stated, so you believe that George Floyd deserved to be murdered? She never said that. And secondly, he told her she had white privilege. We were appalled. The district superintendent attacked my wife, telling her we just have white privilege and we need to deal with it. And I was blown away by it. So I actually then emailed him myself saying, I understand where you're coming from, but since we don't want to be part of any political campaign, anything like that, totally get it. Then I got a wonderful sign for you, not part of any political campaign, but just to make the students feel better and safe. I'm going to get you a thin blue line because we have a lot of police families that go to these schools too. So I'll pay for that to be put up. He obviously didn't like that and doesn't want that to go up. I thought that was interesting. This wasn't a political thing. I just want to make sure that the kids whose parents are police officers that are getting, threatened and things thrown at them and everything else while they're in the line of duty, well, we want to make sure those kids are welcomed back to school too. But nope, not if it doesn't fit his political agenda. So I don't know. Again, this is the whole point. Not so silent. I'm tired of being silent, but we spoke up and nothing happened. So the only option we have is get out, move. And that's crazy to me.
I think something interesting that might evolve from all this is I originally thought, Taylor, when you showed me the list, I was like, oh, well, this is probably just like one project, right? They're doing a inclusion project. Every kid gets to pick one book and write a book report about what they, and the kid that has a pair of uncles is going to pick the book about pride, and the kid that has neighbors or Muslim is going to pick the book about Islamophobia, and they're going to do a little project, and everybody's going to share what they learned, and then next week we'll move on to like geography or history or whatever. And I think you said like this is like a semester long reading list. This is like everybody's reading all of these books, and so I'm wondering. I thought more about this. What if kids being exposed to this stuff early on gets them kind of over it? By the time they reach, teenage years, they're like, yeah, we've covered all that. I get it. There's different groups in society and people have different opinions, and okay, great. Now I need to go get a job and I need to get into college and I need to figure out how to pay my bills, and I'm over it. I wonder if that's maybe an unintended consequence that could backfire on these groups that go, this stuff is being, kids, their eyes aren't open to this. Let's open their eyes to it. And then they go, okay, cool. I saw it. I'm ready to move on.
I think you're living in a fantasy land. This is called indoctrination. And I don't.
It's racist, man. Like, I hate when they try to marginalize African Americans and go, well, all black people are poor. They're not as good as you. They're not as smart as you. They don't know what they're doing as much. So we've got to prop them up and lift them up, and you've got to take a back seat. It's like, no, they're human beings the same as us. They can work their way up the same as us. Like, it's not to say that. Put it this way, I don't think that there's a systemic racist issue. There may be a systemic, what's the word I'm looking for like
economic, socioeconomic issue.
Socioeconomic issue, but I don't like how they keep dividing among race, and they're pointing it out to my kids to a point where they're thinking black people are different when they should think that they're the same.
I agree.
That's it. Andrew Scholes had an interesting take on this, that the real white supremacist is the social justice warrior. And that the quote unquote white supremacist is this person that's living in like a hillbilly town, and they, are afraid of Mexicans stealing their jobs and the African American guys stealing their women, and that's what they're afraid of, because they actually see these people as having something to offer and some talent or some ability or some special unique thing about their race. And that the real white supremacist is the person that's like, oh my gosh, it must be so horrible to be a minority. You have it so bad. My life is so good because I'm white, and I want to help you, and I pity you. And that's like actual white supremacy.
I mean, it is. Listen to Candace Owens. She's amazing. She talks about it. If I were a black person, I would be so pissed off. You are making me sound like I am a 6-year-old who can't do anything for myself, and I need everyone else around to lift me up. But I can't possibly do anything for myself. I can't possibly just go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and and get married and live a nice life, because the entire world is against me. We're creating a world. And like you said, Chris, when we were kids, we were taught the phrase, we got to be colorblind. And I feel like that's what I was. I was colorblind. I didn't care. I played football half black, half white, probably 60%
Mostly
black.
Yeah, if you were any good.
At Wisconsin, it was mostly, not mostly, it was more than half black, and no one cared. No one gave a crap. That's how we were brought up. No one used the N word. At least none of the white guys did. And we just went out and played together. We were all buddies together. We'd go party together. We did whatever. We were colorblind. And now my kids, who are completely colorblind, that's how you're born, are growing up with, now they're being driven into this idea that, like, the blacks, you need to denounce your whiteness so that a black can feel better. It's so nuts. And this book is being written for 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. That's indoctrination. And it goes on to other things, like, Sean, you forwarded us Teen Vogue. Teen Vogue, oh my gosh, with an article.
See, as libertarian to me, I'm all for the inclusiveness of every race and every gender. I don't care. Do whatever you want. I'm so socially liberal, it's ridiculous. But economically, I am the biggest conservative there is. Close the government, cancel it. Don't bail anyone out. Wall Street shouldn't get bailed out either. I'm big on the Peter Schiff or Peter Thiel wagon of libertarianism. And holy cow, that Teen Vogue, like, let's be communists.
Yeah, Teen Vogue basically talking about communism good, capitalism bad. This is Teen Vogue. Again, this is indoctrination. This is the goal, is going, how can we make sure, before people have really figured out their own opinions, how to drive this thing through? And
on the Teen Vogue thing, do you think there's any chance that Teen Vogue is maybe struggling and they need some publicity, and they're kind of going with the Donald Trump strategy of, like, we don't care if people come out against us. There's no such thing as bad PR, so at least everybody's talking about Teen Vogue?
No.
I think
or are they legitimately trying to get people to accept socialism and communism as a viable strategy for society?
I think they genuinely believe what they're saying, which is really scary. It's ironic that, communism is fascism. Like, they want to silence every voice that's not their own. That is fascism. They riot and loot and kill. This is fascism. And they decry the other side as fascist. And it seems so obvious to somebody not in that party. And I'm always asking myself, do I have the same rose-colored glasses? I feel like I'm objective, but the reason I'm conservative, I think, is because I'm so objective, because I look at data. It's not the other way around. I don't let anecdotes rule my life. I don't let emotions rule my life. I take a step outside and look at data, analyze it, and I feel like that's the hallmark of a conservative.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you talk about silencing, and the new poll came out. 62% of Americans say they have political views they're afraid to share. 50% of strong liberals support firing Trump donors. 36% of strong conservatives support firing Biden donors. I mean, we're getting to a point where, like, you can't just talk about it. Everyone's got to be silent, or, everyone wants to continue the conversation. But I have yet to have a conversation. And frankly, this isn't much of a conversation either. I would love to have someone come on and have a conversation, an adult conversation about what's going on. But no one wants to have a conversation. Neither side even remotely wants to have a dialogue. They want monologues and lectures. No one wants to have a dialogue, and it's not going to get better until it actually is a conversation and we start using facts and data. And unfortunately, I don't feel like the left.
I don't think that's totally true. I think the right is consistently wanting the left to come on the air. I know talk show hosts are ready to take people on the air. Ben Shapiro is cited as saying, I have open invites all the time, but his liberal friends are afraid to come on because they will get canceled. They'll lose their jobs just for having an open dialogue with somebody like a Ben Shapiro. There are reasonable liberals. Like, I always go back to, like, a Tulsi Gabbard, who I disagree with, but is a reasonable person, at least in all the appearances I've seen. But the hardcore leftists, they don't want dialogue or debate because they get crushed. They have no real data or information on their side. They're completely uneducated. I mean, look at the Rand Paul incident. I don't know if we already talked about that last week. But the whole say your name, and it's like, he's the author of the bill, you goofballs, and they were attacking him. These kids don't even know what they're doing.
Hey, Sean, did Chris just admit that he didn't listen to the podcast when you and I were doing it without him? Kind of sounds like he did.
Maybe
It's
no.
the same thing that all of our listeners do is they stop listening when they know I'm not on.
All right.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Thanks for downloading twice.
My daughters have downloaded it on their iPad. No joke. I have a picture of them. They walk around and listen to Dad talking, and that's 2 of our listeners.
Sweetheart, we'll do some fart jokes in a little bit. Don't worry, we'll cater to you.
All right. So let's get into a little bit more fun stuff. We got some sports updates. Have you guys started watching college football?
I've not watched an actual game. I'm aware they've been on, but I didn't really want to watch like Central Arkansas State. But I did want to watch the BYU game, but I didn't catch that either.
So the first 2 games that I saw, I think it was this weekend. Apparently the teams that they were playing against forgot that the season had started. Marshall played Eastern Kentucky, won 59-0, and Army beat Middle Tennessee 42-0. So I was like, I knew when the college football season started, but Eastern Kentucky and Army forgot.
Well, and clearly Navy forgot. Maybe it's because the military guys are dealing with bigger things than college football, because Navy got blown out 55-3 against BYU on Labor Day.
Army was the winner 42-0. So.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, again, I'm just excited to see some clearer thinking people have decided that the world isn't going to end by playing football, and that these young, healthy people will be fine and we can move on. And now, not so much up here in Chicago. No. We're still locked down. High school football's shut down, everything else. And we're, as you guys know, our family's working on transitioning to the Nashville area. And I get articles and stuff like that, looking up high school football down there. So I'm excited. College football is back. It's all the way back. Games are going. By and large, not real big COVID issues, although the games so far haven't been really close. NFL starts 2 nights. 2 nights from now, the NFL will be launching the season. And Chris, are you watching it?
First of all, doesn't it start tomorrow, Duncan? One night?
Oh, is today Wednesday? Yes, today is Wednesday. Sorry, it starts tomorrow. So I'm glad I did that on purpose, because I'm trying to protest against the NFL. So I'm trying to trick everyone to watching on Friday instead of Thursday.
I thought you were just promoting days are fluid, just like gender. So, okay. It's Tuesday to me. Okay, so I talked to my little brother the other day, and I'm in 4 fantasy leagues in accident, maybe 5. It's hard to keep track. I talk to my brothers maybe once or twice for 9 months out of the year. Then football starts, and we talk every single week. It's something that we have to talk about. You know, we bet on games together, not a lot of money, and as much as I hate the protesting stuff, it's like this is something that connects my brothers and I together, and I'm having a hard time coming up to tomorrow and not watching football. And that may change, but I was a staunch no, but I'm just, gosh, I hate myself for saying it, but I might be watching football. And fantasy football has something to do with it. I was already roped into these leagues to start, so I might be breaking on that. And I don't feel good about it.
You sound like John Kerry. Come on.
Yeah, well, it's better than sounding like Biden. At least I know I'm flip-flopping, as opposed to like not knowing if it's Tuesday.
Well, I guess I didn't know the day. That's true. So, Sean, I assume you're going to be watching?
Yeah, I'll watch. I mean, the Chiefs I'll watch.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I have a feeling, put it this way. If I do watch, I'm not watching the first quarter, because it's going to force me to turn it off. I know they're going to overdo this. So it's frustrating to me. I can't stand that the world of politics and social justice has like completely ruined everything. Like the one bastion of entertainment, just enjoy a football game, and instead you have to listen to a political rally.
At least in video games, it's not getting political, right? The new Madden.
Oh yeah, you're right. Video games. Oh no, I take that back. Madden 21 has brought back Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick has a better rating than Cam Newton. And their statement was a starting caliber quarterback, which was pretty clear that they were trying to be divisive with that.
Now the Bears should consider picking him up.
No, I hear that there's like a bit of a cheat code. There's an Easter egg in there. You can actually get Greta Thunberg in there. She's a virtue signal caller.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic.
People scorn her, and she just says, "How dare you?" Just press the circle button, and she taunts. How dare you?
And she carries a sign up and down. Green New Deal. All right. Has anyone checked out Hard Knocks? Have you guys watched Hard Knocks on HBO?
Not a bit. Who is Hard Knocks this year?
It's both LA teams. It's the Chargers and the Rams.
Well, whoever I was stealing my subscription from, it ended, so I don't have access anymore. Is it any good?
I watched the first episode, and no, it's not enjoyable watching Anthony Lynn do a Zoom meeting with the team. It just doesn't. I mean, yeah, it's fine, but
the last thing I want to do is get on TV and watch somebody do a Zoom meeting. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I really couldn't. I couldn't keep going with it. I didn't care, and I knew it was going to turn into all about protests and stuff. So I turned it off pretty quick. But all right, so let's get into some serious or satire. Let's have some fun. Let's finish it off and serious or satire. Then we got a little prognostication station, and then we will do the top 5 races.
I'll start us off. University of Oregon, there was a space rented out by a Black Lives Matter group. It was a safe space for non-whites only. Turns out that there's a group that is contesting the reservation of this space. It's a popular space to reserve by an LGBTQ group that believes both race and gender are fluid.
It's got to be serious.
Satire.
Satire, but dang, that's close, right? All right.
Wow.
Next one, a Florida man is being sued. Yeah, Florida man.
Florida.
Is being sued in civil court because somebody who was trespassing on his property got bitten by an alligator because he has a small alligator farm in his backyard.
I mean, as soon as you said Florida, I knew it was serious.
Yeah, serious. It's Florida.
Satire.
Oh. So I think other people have caught on. They know now we make the joke with the Florida people.
Nailed you. All right, go ahead, Sean.
All right, so we got an 80-year-old British hiker who got lost for 4 days. And he crashed his own press conference about his disappearance.
Satire.
That's got to be serious. That'd be so cool.
Serious.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
I'm lost, 80-year-old man. His kids have a press conference to alert the local population. They did a 3-day search where, like, the Army, Coast Guard, whoever, people went in the woods, searched for him, could not find him. He shows up to the pub where the press conference is, like, hey, what's up? I'm alive.
This sounds awfully suspicious, like a Joe Biden story, like he accidentally shows up on time to his own press conference.
Yeah, we got, here's 2 more. So that was serious. We got a Nebraska man recently asked city council to rename boneless chicken wings.
The serious.
I already know this is serious. Yeah. And he's dead serious about it. And he's dead serious.
Sean, him on.
Hey, Sean.
On here. He doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, as the producer of this show, Sean, you need and the person who lives closest to this guy, we've got to get this guy on the show.
I will drive to Lincoln and get him on the show as our first guest ever.
And what did he want to rename them?
He's like, we have chicken tenders. We have, chicken strips. Like, it's not a boneless chicken wing. They're not taking the bone out. Like, we've got to teach our kids the right way. We're teaching them lies.
This is
We're probably going to hate this guy. I don't know
what part of the wing involved. Last one, Anheuser-Busch developed a non-alcoholic dog brew, and it immediately sold out.
Please tell me it's out there. Please tell me it's
serious.
It is serious.
God.
Instantly sold out. It was like a bone broth dog brew, so you can share. Supposedly it's nutritious.
Anyway, is it carbonated? Is anything fermented? I feel like beer is misleading. Like
Anheuser-Busch made a liquid that dogs drink, and it sold out immediately.
Okay. Well, that sounds serious. But when you say it's a dog beer, it's like, come on, man, that's not a.
They call it dog brew. It's called dog brew.
Dog brew.
Check it out. Go buy some dog brew.
All right, I got one. I normally don't have one. I got a good one though. All right. White U.S. professor Jessica Krug admits she has pretended to be black for years.
Serious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking to me that this was serious. And by the way, this is in the category. They now have an entire category in this publication, The Guardian, for race.
Well, there's black privilege. Why else would you do that?
Yeah, Jessica Krug, an activist who teaches African American history, writes Medium post apologizing for false identity.
Well, we're going to find out in about a week that she's also a man.
Yeah, she grew up in Kansas City, by the way, Phelps. So.
She probably grew up a white man.
And one more. We'll see if this is serious or satire. Joe Exotic has launched an underwear line emblazoned with his face.
From jail?
Serious.
Are you asking for details?
Satire, because he's in jail, right? How's he launching that from prison?
Michael Cohen wrote a book in jail.
Underwear line? I'm going to say satire.
It's serious.
Get the.
I think it's awesome because Tiger King has got to stay alive. How crazy is that when everyone thinks about it? Like you saw Tiger King and that was only a few months ago, but it feels like eons.
Oh, gosh.
That was a whole pandemic ago. We forgot to do the COVID update, so I did want to throw out the COVID update real quick. Our COVID update this week comes from Joe Biden. In case you hadn't heard, COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, the lives, it's just, when you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
They got, I mean, and every day I keep clicking on these thinking it's satire. These are edited or cut up, and it's like, my God, this poor guy. How do they edit out the strings when he's live? Like, how do they make it look like, how do they, the puppet strings? Like, gosh. Does somebody pat him on the head and give him a cookie, like a Scooby snack, like every time he does something okay?
What are we prognosticating about today?
All right.
I
want corrections on the podcast. You mentioned that listeners don't care about kids earlier on. We had a listener write in and text us live on the show. Conservatives do care about kids, even the unborn. Democrats do care about kids, but only girls and boys from the demographic of 8 to 14 years old.
Okay. Good. All right. So people do care about kids. Wonderful. All right. So prognostication. I want to do a little bit of betting. I
don't gamble, but I guess I'll make an exception.
Yeah, we're gonna gamble, but we gotta come up with like a good. What's the bet if you lose? What do you got to do?
Can you attend WNBA basketball games right now? Do they have it?
No,
tonight?
You can't.
So they still 10 years in a row they're not allowing attendance again.
If I lose, I'll have sex with my wife.
All right. So there's Chris's. All right. So here it is. Texans, Chiefs. Chiefs are giving 9.5. Who do you got?
No, I'm taking Texans in the points. Yeah, but there's no fans, so I don't know if home field advantage is going to be the same. So
I will take Chiefs.
I'm taking Chiefs.
Give me the points. Okay, so the stakes. Okay, real stakes. Losers do the podcast shirtless next week, I guess.
Losers do it without the other person.
And you gotta draw a mouth on your belly where your fat crease is, guys, and you gotta talk with your stomach the whole time instead of having the camera in your face.
There you go. Next week, losers shirtless.
It's a great way to increase our YouTube followers.
Dad bod is real, man. There are some girls that are gonna look at us and go like, "Wow, they're definitely gettable." Like I am not. They're not out of my league.
All right. So shirts versus skins.
Yes.
For next week. I love that. All right.
Well, now I'm watching the game. So Chiefs, you got Texans.
So Sean and I have Chiefs with giving 9.5. Chris is taking the Texans and the points.
I feel like Chris is going to get COVID next week somehow and bow out.
Allergies.
Can't do the episode, guys. Got COVID again. You've
Want
used that 4 times.
Hey, you want to do the over/under for pants or no pants? Because I can do that too.
Well, we're all pantless right now, so
you have to wear pants.
We're also adding our streaming service to Spotify, YouTube, Pornhub. We're also available there.
Yeah, subscribe on Pornhub. What's the new one called where It's like an X-rated social media, and you can pay to be someone's follower. And
I'm going to
Pretending
pretend
like,
I don't know.
pretending like you don't know that, man. Come on.
I'm going to pretend like I don't know
I don't
too.
know what you're talking about. Why don't you just out with it? It's like, I don't know, zoology.com.
I'm asking for a friend.
That's on our OnlyFans page.
All right. So move on to the top 5 this week. A little bit controversial. Top 5 races.
Next week is religions. Top 5 religions next week.
All right. So, and we will go in order of how I see the screen. Sean, Taylor, Chris. All right. So
my number 5 race is the Tour de France. It's not the number, like it's not number 1 worthy, but the Tour de France, number 5.
Have you watched any stuff on Armstrong?
It's France, by the way, not France. But have you even watched that the last time?
No, never watched it. I just felt like it was cool that an American won it a lot of times and became really successful. And I guess he was also on performance enhancers, but so was everybody else. So I just like the fact that America was beating everyone else at the French race.
That was a long time ago, and I stopped watching when they stopped allowing steroids. So
yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. I do love, the one thing I love about it is the yellow jacket. The idea that the person leading wears a special color all the time, I think is kind of fun.
Hey, bikers are actually
like 48 days.
We should do a top 5 list talking about bikers of like athletic bodies that you don't want. Bikers got to be one of them. It's like, I've got these gigantic thick hands for legs and I got noodles for arms. Like, it's one of those bodies where you're like, I don't think I need to look like a biker.
Number 1, Chris's body.
Yeah.
All right. All right. My number 5, the Boston Marathon, which it wouldn't have been as cool, except now kind of patriotic and everything with the nasty Boston Marathon.
It's an explosive pick. I think it was a good one.
No, good. That's nice.
We're canceled.
I mean, as disgusting as that was, it makes it like, to me, when the people go out and they still run it to prove like Boston's strong, I think it's pretty cool. So Boston Marathon's my number 5. Chris.
I'm going to go safe here, and that's the 100-yard dash. I actually watch it. I have a short attention span. That person's popular. Everybody knows who the fastest at the 100-yard dash is, right? Like, 100-yard dash is great. We're talking 10 seconds of pure bliss and joy.
Clearly, you don't watch it. It'd be the 100-meter.
Top 5 things my wife doesn't say about our sex life, by the way.
All right. Hey, in honor of all the fantasy drafts we've just done, let's do this one snake. So, Chris, you're number 4.
Ninja Warrior, but the Japanese version, not the American version. Great race.
Oh.
The Japanese announcers, though. It's like calling a goal in soccer out of the water. Like,
so we are still doing top 5 races, not races.
All right. My number 4, the Badwater Ultramarathon, held in Death Valley, where you even have to like run on the lines on the street, otherwise the rubber from your shoes would melt.
Oh, that's interesting.
Similar. My number 4 was the Leadville 100.
What is that?
Leadville, Colorado, and you climb and descend 15,600 feet at elevation ranging from 9,000 up to 12,000 feet. It's in the middle of August. It's still really hot. It's a 100-mile race. It's kind of a David Goggins thing.
Wow. All right. So, Sean, you're number 3.
The Indy 500. I've never been. It's like the one thing I want to go do. It seems like an awesome time. Never been. Want to go.
I went once, and it was cool. Again, once you get past the first few laps, it's not as, whatever, but the sound of it, and they did a flyover, and I mean, it was really, really cool. I don't need to necessarily go back every year, but it was awesome. So my number 3, following along with yours, auto racing, the Monaco Grand Prix. Like, I've been to Monaco. I have not seen the Grand Prix, but if you've ever been to Monaco, just picturing cars racing at high speeds through those streets, like it's awesome.
You guys are trying to sound cool, but you haven't watched any of these. Although I will say the Indy 500 is a more newsworthy race than the one you mentioned, Taylor. Newsworthy race.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. That's a NASCAR joke.
All right, my number 3 is the Murph. Are you familiar with the Murph?
No.
Yeah. It's CrossFit, but that's not really a race, is it?
Oh, yeah. You wear a weighted vest. You run a mile, Then you have to do 100 push-ups, 200 pull-ups, and 300 squats, and then finish with a mile in a weighted vest. It's a brutal workout, good all-around workout. It's not too long. Tests a lot of different levels of fitness. Murph's pretty tight.
All right. So I don't think of it as a race, but all right, fair enough. Chris, you're
timed and people compete. So what are your criteria here?
Chris, you're number 2.
Well, you have a penis. I don't really consider that male, though. You're like, what do you mean? Okay, my number 2. The Barkley Marathon. Have you heard of this one?
No.
Okay, now one of the reasons I mentioned this is there's a documentary on Netflix, very interesting and fun to watch. So it's an ultra marathon. It's about 100 to 130 miles, but nobody knows exactly for sure. You climb up and down the equivalent of 2 Mount Everest in elevation. So you run a loop, and it was modeled after a guy who escaped from a prison nearby and tried to like get away, but the terrain was so brutal, like he was caught not that far away, not that long later. And to complete it, it's 5 loops. And there have only been like 8 or 9 people in the history of the marathon that completed. And it's weird. It's $1 entry fee. People try to apply to it all the time. It's a very like unique process. This old guy runs it. You pay $1 and then he has you bring like a pair of white socks or a white shirt. And like they start the race with a conch shell. Whenever you tap out of the race, somebody actually plays taps on a trumpet. It's a really weird old school race that a lot of ultra marathoners try to get into, but like it's not easy to get into. But the thing is on Netflix. It's really fascinating. It's really cool.
All right. So hypocritically, Chris, you told us we shouldn't put things we haven't watched. Have you actually watched this race go on, or just a documentary?
I watched 4 hours of the documentary about it. That's more than I could say for you guys.
I've watched the documentary on the Grand Prix. All right. My number 2, the NFL Combine 40.
Ooh.
Okay. That's less of a race than the Murph, but okay.
Just racing against the clock, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right, Sean, you're number 2.
My number 2, a good old 5K. Not to walk. Everyone can participate. You can basically walk.
See you next week.
You know, you can raise money for just about any charity.
I'm Sleepy Joe, and I like the 5K.
Yeah, it's plain vanilla.
That would have been fantastic for like your number 5, but that made your number 2 was just a 5K.
Just a good old 5K. Everybody can do one, you know.
I also like watching Jello wiggle. That's fun too.
All right. Sean's number 1 is running the mile in gym class.
No, I think my number 1's a lot cooler. So my number 1, speaking of athletic bodies you wouldn't want, is the Kentucky Derby. Happened 4 days ago. It's gone on for 146 years. Very exciting. There's like people get dressed up. The body you don't want is that like 5'0" body.
Oh, I was thinking body of a horse. I'm like, yeah. I'd carry a spear just because.
I know. I was thinking, I'm like, you don't want to be hung like a horse? That's amazing. I was thinking the same thing as Chris. All right. So my number 1, I'm going to go in a different direction. The human race. People are awesome.
Oh my God.
No, no.
I feel like I'm pride.
I think 2020 has proved anything, Taylor. It's that this is not the best race. Klingon is probably way cooler than human. There's got to be a better one out there in the universe.
My number 1, and this is like my Super Bowl this year, is the presidential race.
Oh.
Is that, huh?
How do you say the vice president on the Democratic side's name, Chris?
Kamala Shantiva.
All right.
Do another quick top 5. Should we do a top 5 of Sean's new look without a beard? Top 5 people Sean most looks like. Go ahead, Taylor. Yours is first.
Ron Jeremy. Take your hat off. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'll go with out of work Keanu Reeves.
Overweight Fabio.
Joy Behar.
All right, on that, we got to be done. All right, so for September 9th, hopefully you guys have enjoyed us. Again, please follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Do me a huge, giant favor. Share this on all your socials. Get this out. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as we enjoy making it. Again, thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.